Welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast. My name's Dualta, and in this podcast series, I'll be speaking to investors, advisors, entrepreneurs, and recruiters who are based all over the world, and we'll be discussing how to set up, scale, and operate a world-class recruitment company. I was in New York filming lots of content with clients, and man, let me tell you, traveling takes it out of you. I caught the flu when I came back, and I had to push back a ton of podcasts that I'd recorded that I was due to record. So I'm way behind, and I've managed to get this one done and another one out from last week. So I've been a little ill, and I'm just playing catch up here. But did a really good podcast yesterday. This one is with Eric Lambert. Big Eric Lambert. He is from Houston. He's a Gulf War veteran and was a college athlete as well, and has been in the recruitment game for about 20 years. So a real veteran in every sense of the word, and a great guest, a great character, and really enjoyed having a chat with him. I'm sure we could all learn a little bit from listening to men like Eric who've been there and in the thick of it. I enjoyed hearing his thoughts on leadership within recruitment and how he leads from the front after all these years, and still makes a point of doing that and being a contributor. So hope you enjoy this one. Over to Eric.
Hello.
Hello there. We got through it at last. We were having some technical issues there.
It worked. This is fantastic.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Recruiter Startup Podcast, Eric. We are delighted to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I'm expecting big things here. I talked to your son, and he said, "My dad's box office. You need to get him on."
I paid him to say that.
Yeah. When I spoke to him, I asked him a question. He said, "Oh, my dad's in recruiting too," and I said, "Huh? And you decided to become a recruiter?" I often wonder how my own sons will perceive what I do for a living. You know, and he said he just remembers you always having the phone and making deals at truck stops and everywhere you went. Is that a fair view on it?
Yeah, as you know, you speak to a lot of people in our business. It's 24/7, and we're at the beck and call of our customers, our candidates, and the phone is always connected to our ear, and we're always doing deals. You know, we're trying to change people's lives, and there's no time clock on that. We never shut down. So yeah, he's seen quite a bit in the 25 years I've been doing this, and I'm glad he chose to get into this business. And he's doing really, really well up in Chicago. I'm happy for him.
Yeah. And I've never known too many father-son combos in recruitment now.
Well, here's what's interesting is his younger brother, my youngest son, is about to graduate from college in May, which is another story. He just got back from Japan studying over there. But both my sons are very creative. And Keller, my oldest, who you've spoken to, has already secured a job for my youngest up in Chicago for the same company he's working for. So I'll have two sons doing this.
Well, you know how you're going to get the boys back to Houston then, don't you?
Yeah, I got to do what you did and start my own company.
Yeah, you do. But you know, you've had an interesting life before recruitment, and well, walk us through a little bit of that.
Yeah, sure. So I went to college in the Midwest, University of Nebraska. I was an athlete there. I think my major.
What type of athlete were you? You're a big lad.
Well, yeah. Well, I am now, but back then I wasn't. I'm a military brat, so we moved around quite a bit. So military brats get to pretty much play any sport, regardless of size. I was always kind of on the smaller side. I got into swimming and diving and wrestling and baseball and football. But when I got to high school, after we left Italy, we went to Nebraska, and those boys in Nebraska are huge. And so my baseball and football career ended. I got into swimming and diving, which led to gymnastics. And I actually was on the Nebraska gymnastics team back in the 83 to 87, when all the Olympians and the Olympic coach Francis Allen was my coach, which is strange because I wasn't that good.
But good enough to get a scholarship, eh?
Yeah, I had a little partial scholarship. One of the guys that was on a full ride injured his back. I think his name was Mike Bowers. He was in a body cast for a year, so that freed up some funds, and me and another gentleman split the scholarship. So it was fun. Had a great time. Got to watch my teammates who were all Olympians just do some amazing things. It was a great experience for me.
Yeah.
After college,
How committed were you to the gymnastics?
I mean, when your teammates are all Olympians, you got to be pretty committed. We worked out, every day. I was really committed to it. I wasn't burnt out. Most of the gymnasts start when they're really, really young.
Yeah.
And, I started in the sport when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
And Francis Allen was in Illinois recruiting the top gymnasts in Illinois. And I happened to do pretty decent in this big meet. And he said, come walk on, come in the summer before your freshman year, work out with the team, and we'll see what we can do. And I made the team. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, but you must have always known that you're in a room full of Olympians, and that you obviously didn't get into it early enough for it. Was that really tough for a competitive young man?
Yeah, I really had to work hard. I went from being an all-around gymnast to just working the two events that I was best at, which was floor and vault. Mm-hmm. And so that allowed me to hone my skills and get it to the level where I could actually compete and get into some meets in the rotation. So just doing the specialization really helped me get to the level that was required to actually compete.
And being a military brat,
yeah,
were you destined to join?
I think so. I always grew up, obviously respecting those that served, and I graduated college in '87, and I got a job as a software engineer with an old company called EDS, Ross Perot's old company. And that's where my father was working after he retired from the Air Force. He got me an interview, got in, worked there for about a year and a half. Just before that, right before my senior year, right before I graduated college, my mother had passed away of cancer, and we were really, really close. And that I mean, I as I look back on it now, it had an impact on me, but it was a delayed impact, and it really affected me about a year and a half after I started my career as a software developer with EDS. And things just kind of got to me then, and the person I'm married to today, after 28 years, we were dating, and we had just broken up after a couple of months. My dad was in Italy managing the country for EDS. My brother was married, had kids, older brother, and I was just lost. And the death of my mother really impacted me, and I enlisted into the Navy, and did that for 8 years. 4 active, 4 inactive. Was in Gulf War, first one, and I loved it. The military was absolutely fantastic.
I used to be a bartender in Brussels, and I used to serve all the military boys. All the guys that were stationed there at NATO on their holidays.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and I really got to like them all. And then they that was their holiday camp. I can't imagine. I always wondered how tough it was going from those type of stations where basically you're babysitting a few diplomats, and you're going partying with au pairs in the evening.
Yeah.
To flying into a war zone, like that for me just
you learn to compartmentalize things in your life, and how to focus during certain times, and be able to turn things on and turn things off. How to grab sleep whenever, wherever. I mean, to this day, my wife hates me because I can fall asleep in about 4 seconds, and she can't. But you, it's just because of the environment, and some people can deal with it, some folks can't. I don't know if Keller told you about my nephew, but some people can deal with it, and some people have a difficult time dealing with what goes on. But that's the good, bad, and the ugly of people that are in the military.
And you were able to compartmentalize when others weren't. Is that nature or nurture? Is that conditioned and part of the training, or is it a mixture of both? Or is there that like all good recruiters, is there that little psychopathic tendency in you?
Like I said, I think you're hardwired a certain way.
Yeah.
The military lifestyle, it may have changed. I mean, we're talking 20-something, 30 years ago, but back then, and certainly when my father was in, failure is never an option. The military has they used to have a good way of weeding out people that are not going to be able to perform in stressful situations, and deal with all the different variations that get thrown at you. And I think I've been successful in recruiting because of that. I mean, we all know candidates and clients throw a lot of stuff at us, and it's all time sensitive. You've got to react and act and remove obstacles right then and there, or you're going to lose the business, or lose the account, or lose the candidate. And the highs and lows in our business are what drive us to stay in it, because I guess we're junkies for that kind of high and low. We just love
the emotional roller coaster.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if it was boring and consistent, I don't think we thrive on the chaos, I think.
Yeah. You must be it's interesting that there's parallels. Before I jump into the recruiting, I just want to ask you a few things about your time in you did 3 active tours. So you did the Gulf. What else did you do?
I was in right as the first Gulf War started, and was deployed over there, and primarily the last, we did other real world exercises while that was going on, but what was really important was after the war, we went back with a special boat unit to help the Kuwaitis guard their coastline, because that's how Saddam Hussein came in. He went into where all the yachts were at the yacht club and grabbed those yachts and pulled them out and sank them all, so we couldn't make any beach landings. And after the war, it was a very fast war, as you remember, we went back there with some special boat unit folks to train them on how to guard their coastline, and that was most of what I saw during that time. And then President Clinton came in 92-ish time frame, and started downsizing the military, and I was a product of that, and served the last 4 years in a reserve capacity.
I feel like I'm speaking to Jack Reacher here.
No, certainly not. No.
That was his story as well. So I've obviously read too many of them. So you've dealt with real stuff, and you've dealt with things that are as far as the human extremities can really go, to both being pushed emotionally and in training, and like from being an athlete to being in the military to then how did you get into recruitment? Why go find people jobs and sell people to other people after all the specialist skills that you've just picked up? Surely you should be a bodyguard somewhere for some scary,
right? Yeah. Well, it's an interesting story. It was more out of desperation than anything else. So I told you about my bride, who we had dated for a couple months and broken up, and I enlisted. And during that time, we reconnected, wound up getting married. It's another story, probably another good podcast for you. We actually eloped in Vegas. Her folks, sent the ring back after we got engaged. And I said, she was a flight attendant for American Airlines, by the way, in Dallas. And I said, come tell me in my face that you're not going to marry me. So she came, and we wound up going to Vegas on my way to San Diego and got married.
Yeah.
And she didn't tell her folks for 3 months. So we got married. She moved to San Diego. When I got out of the military, moved back to Texas. She was a flight attendant. I was working 3 jobs, delivering the newspaper, teaching gymnastics, and I was working as a help desk professional with Perot Systems because EDS wasn't hiring back.
You sound like a catch. Why was her parents so disapproving at the time?
A military guy. You only dated him for a couple of months.
Were you a
that
bit
sort
wild?
of thing. But yeah, well, I guess. I mean, I treated her really well, obviously, because she stuck with me. But yeah, so we got to the point where we got to have 3 kids, pretty quick. Every couple of years, we had a child. Keller's my oldest, and then Kennedy, my daughter, and then Braxton. And she was making probably $23,000 or $24,000. I was making the same, and Bill's got, you have 3 kids, it gets expensive. And she says, I want to stay home. So she just drove home one day from, going on a trip and said, I'm done. You're going to have to do something. So half my income went away, and I answered an ad for a physician recruiting company in Dallas, and they trained me. And that 6-month training program taught me everything that I still rely on today to be successful.
See, if I was that guy interviewing you then, and I'd be looking at it as I do interview recruiters, and I'd be going, okay, great, dedicated athlete, gone in, worked in the system in the military, can deal with a lot of stuff, has an expensive wife that doesn't want to work. This guy is perfect for recruitment. He needs it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd giving you the job straight there and then. I wouldn't let you leave the room.
Yeah, I remember when I worked for this physician recruiting company in Dallas, they made us. They sent in Tom James, the clothier, to measure me up for 5 or 10 suits that I was going to need, and they actually paid for the suits, but I had to pay them back. And so, I needed to earn money to pay that note back. So that they're very smart. Yeah,
well, they're not. So, there's no flies on them.
Yeah.
So
that's how I got into
the 90s, right?
It was 1994.
Okay, so you had your suit, you had your Rolodex, you're running around Houston or Dallas. Which is it?
I was in Dallas at the time, so for 3 years I recruited doctors and worked my way up to a leadership role with them, and this was right around the 1997 timeframe, and Y2K was blowing up, and everybody was
and oil and
leaving.
Gas, obviously, it's a big market there, right?
Yeah, you remember Y2K? Everybody thought the computers were going to crash and all the industries were going to crash, and so a lot of people were getting out of the physician recruiting world and going into IT because it was just so lucrative. Yeah, and I did that and moved my family from Dallas, Texas, to Houston. Never been to Houston, and opened up a branch office for a national company here in Houston, and I've been here ever since.
So when you opened up. Who was that with that you opened up the branch?
The company at the time was called Integrated Partnerships, which was home based out of Orange County, California. Yeah. Husband and wife team owned it. The Pantoskis, they're absolutely fantastic people to this day. They're entrepreneurs, and I'm sure they're doing really, really well. But so we moved there, and they were kind of bleeding edge technology. If you remember back in the day. This was 97 to 2000. And they decided to put video studios in all of our branch offices to capture us interviewing candidates and then pushing our customers so that they could real time, anytime they had time, could see the vlog or the video interview and schedule interviews back then. Yeah.
No way. That's
amazing. So they changed their name to Direct Fit, and Allegis Group wound up purchasing that company.
So I listen to Gary Vee a lot, right? And he talks about people who invent things that that are absolutely going to work, like blockchain or like that. And he said, "But I'm not investing in it. because the timing's not right. You know, that
Yeah.
their idea was amazing in the 90s, but it's hardly even working right now. Like that,
Yeah.
that it always amazes me, like when that there obviously could work. Talk to me about your first leadership role. You were a young man still then, but
Oh yeah.
you must have coming from the military and knowing that people do what they're told in the military. Did you?
Yeah.
How did? How disappointed were you when you tried to manage a bunch of recruiters?
Yeah, that's like herding cats.
Yeah.
And fortunately or unfortunately, I found the easiest way to lead is by example. And
Did
uh,
you get that straight
although,
away?
yeah, I mean, although many of the companies I worked for, most of the leaders weren't in production. It was a more of a do as I say, not as I do thing. And I'm always a hands-on guy, and I never really got out of production. I just felt like I wouldn't be an effective leader in the recruiting world if I wasn't doing the day to day. Now, obviously, I couldn't be as immersed as they are, where they're 100% in production, because I had to manage a business, manage people, I had to train, I had to hire, I had to mentor, and then I had to report to bosses about trends and money and revenue and net margin. So I just never got out of production, and I found that when I asked people or showed them, they responded better to me than maybe my peers who were completely out of production. You hear the scuttlebutt around the room of, it's a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, but I got good results. And so I kept that mantra. Even to this day, I've been in the business 25 years or so, and I'm still meeting with customers. I'm still picking up the phone and screening candidates for maybe some salespeople that work for me, because my recruiters are bogged down working 10 plus orders. So I put the headset on and call candidates. I love it.
Yeah, so you're still in the thick of it today. You've been with your
Yeah.
current firm for how long?
Recruiting since 94.
But in the current job that you like, the current firm you've been in?
Oh yeah, I've been with my current firm almost 7 years now, and I'm still doing the same stuff I was doing before. I'm leading by example, by meeting with customers. I'm interviewing candidates. I'm mentoring and coaching the team I have. I've got salespeople that are client facing. I've got recruiters that are candidate facing, and I do it all. Lead by example.
And you're still managing a team, are you?
And managing a team and reporting to the board and, the chief revenue officer. We've got reports and deadlines and trend analysis, and, we've got all that stuff we've got to manage. So, there's never enough time in the day, but you find time. You learn how to work. I work in spurts. I don't know if that works for everybody, but I block time out, and, for 3 hours, I'm immersed. I've got the phone on Do Not Disturb, and I've got my goals and tasks that I got to do for those 3 hours. And then I'll reward myself. I'll go to the gym for an hour, and then I'll get back on the phones for another 3 hours, and either do some reporting or trend analysis, or plan a training session for my team or whatever it is. And I just got to work in spurts. Otherwise you're going to be 10, 12 hours a day just tied to the phone, and you got to be active. You got to keep the body healthy and moving too. You can't sit down for too long.
Yeah, no, I agree. I try and mix it up myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
Now, we'll have a lot of UK Irish listeners to this podcast as well as people in the US, but there's a bit of difference in the way that we recruit over here. We do everything, so it's more like you pick up the job and you find the candidate and then you match it all together. Where in the US, a lot of the times it's a split desk scenario. Are all your guys split desk?
Yes, our company do full desk, and for whatever reason in the markets that they tried it didn't work. So yeah, we are split desk, but I run the teams. I like the teams to be cross-trained. We run lean, so we don't have a lot of duplicity in positions. I can always use another salesperson or another recruiter. It just never seems like I have enough. So people have to be able to do everything. Even though their main focus is either a recruiter or a client-facing salesperson. But we all cover for each other. I mean, if somebody takes a vacation or somebody gets ill, the business doesn't stop. We still have to deliver. And so I lean on the teammates' knowledge of, what everybody does so that we can all pull together. I just find it works. We're very agile. It just works better that way.
Can I ask you a difficult question?
Sure.
Why haven't you set up your own recruitment firm?
That's, So the easy answer, because I've started many branches for other people.
Yeah.
If I had a few years salary saved up, and again, my wife has, although she works very, very hard helping raise the family, and she's the CFO of the company, we can't do anything without her. She doesn't have an income. So I'm the one that provides the income, and together we raised a phenomenal family in the 28 years we've been married. And it's about money. The easy answer is, if I had to, it would take about 2 years. It takes about 2 years to build a business. In this, I have found a business where you can pay for yourself and have some net margin to the bottom line that you can reinvest. If I had about 2 years money in the bank, I'd give it a shot, but I've never gotten to that point.
Yeah. Why do you think it would take that amount? Is it because if you were to do it, you have lofty goals when you do it?
It's just from a numbers perspective, and what, my financial commitments may be different than other folks. Certainly if I was single, it would be different, but when you've got a family of 5 and you put 3 of them through college, and the last one's about to graduate in May, those bills get pretty high. Yeah.
I forget that, because in Europe, like, our college fees they're non-existent in comparison. So
I've got a bone to pick with you Englishmen. You guys recruited my son away. He went to study up there in
I have a bone to pick with
London
as well.
Yeah.
Quite a few.
And he fell in love with your country, or the UK, and on his own decided to get accepted to, I think it's called Greenwich University there. And called me one day and said, I'm transferring from Baylor and I'm going to finish my college up here. And Dad, it's so much cheaper. Yeah. So, but he wound up finishing at Baylor. But anyway, I won.
So, it's interesting. I wonder if anybody's listening to this and wondering about the finances of setting up a recruitment firm. If your personal expenses aren't that high, it's relatively simple these days.
You need a good applicant tracking system. Either you handle the invoicing yourself, or you have an application that's going to be able to do that. Hopefully it's all integrated together, but those systems get expensive. You got to figure out a way. I mean, we do, contract to hire and direct hire services. So if you're going to be putting people out on billing, you've got to pay them before typically you collect money from your client. So you've got to have some kind of cash flow to be able to cover that difference.
Yeah, or you can get a third party to do that.
Sure, your third party to do that, but it's relatively.
Shout out to, I don't know, I better not start plugging people, but
okay,
I know somebody who does that. It's called Jeremy Whitson.
Yeah, so I mean, it's relatively simple. There's no barrier to entry. You don't need to have any kind of certifications or pass any kind of test. I mean, you get it's matchmaking. I mean, if you've ever fixed up a friend with a mate, that's what we do. It's very simple business, but you're only as good as your last placement. So you've got to continue to prove yourself and deliver. I've got customers I've been selling to for 20 plus years. And if I mess up one time, they fire me. So you've always got to deliver.
I'm sure you fire customers as well.
Absolutely.
Well, and what grounds would you fire a customer?
Situations, and that's really where the differentiator is between being successful in this business and not. It's very easy early on to try to play God. Pick who your customer is going to pick. Which candidates? Never do that. Always give them options, because you just don't know. And then the other is being able to have honest and open conversations with your client. There's a client that we had recently where we had 27 client on-site interviews, and not one person was selected for hire. These were all direct hire placements. And I had to have a conversation with the chief information officer and just share the data, just the pure data with them, and saying, look, we're not being successful. I'm not pointing fingers. Experience that we have, and we're not going to be able to continue to invest with these kinds of results. And we had an open and honest dialogue, and what we found out is what she wanted and what her line managers wanted were not in alignment. And that's where the downfall came, or the misconnect came. And it wasn't a situation she was willing to work with or to fix, because she had young managers, and we just had to walk away.
Do you have any triggers that give you that information, or is it just from managing the team day to day?
Yeah, pure data and real-time information from our candidates. Many times we try to sit in on these interviews at the client location just to make sure everybody's in alignment, because sometimes it happens in staffing. The job requirement that you discuss with the customer is not the kind of questions they ask in the interview. It's like, I need all of these 10 things, but when I interview them, in many cases, those that are listening, if you can sit in on these interviews, especially in the beginning of the relationship, to learn if this person doing the interviewing is good at what they do, they're oftentimes, I would say 75% of the time, the people doing the interviewing are not real good at interviewing. They don't have questions, or the HR gave them questions to ask, and it's not really related to the job description or really what they're truly looking for. They're not in alignment, and we find those ahead of time and are able to coach our clients and say, look, what you're looking for in the interview that I sat in, you're not going to get what you want because of the questions. Here are some suggestions that we have. So you've got to play an active part in it.
Can you spot somebody who's going to be good at recruitment when you're hiring for your own team?
Yeah, I think in our business, they have to not be afraid to talk to strangers. I know that as we grow up, we're always told, don't talk to strangers, but you have to have the ability to introduce yourself. I ask people situations of how do they feel when they go to a seminar. What do they do if they go to a seminar or a conference for the first time and they don't know anybody? If they don't, talk about, well, I go up and introduce myself. I ask people questions. If they don't have that in them and they're not hardwired that way, extrovert, I guess you would say, they're not going to be successful. A lot of people don't want to make decisions. They want us to make decisions for them. And more than anything, as a recruiter, sometimes you're a career counselor. Sometimes you have to get to know what motivates them inside and out so that you can guide them appropriately and give them information and help them with that information make the best decision for them. And same thing with the customers. They think they need somebody, a certain whatever, but after you dig deep and you figure out what the problems are that they're trying to solve, it's really not what they thought they needed. Hey, you just need this kind of person, So.
And tell me, what's exciting you about the US market right now in the tech space?
Well, it's obviously the tech space is ever changing, which is a challenge, but it's also exciting. Right now, I'm sure you guys are aware that the automation, the AI, a lot of business processes are being automated. So bot development, that's exciting in of itself because it creates lots of opportunities for people. The speed at which things change, and what's great about a lot of the methods and principles of managing projects, and primarily application development projects or implementation projects, the project management methodologies, and I'm talking about Agile, is not just for IT anymore. We're seeing Agile for the enterprise, applying those principles and methodologies to other businesses that are non-IT to manage people, processes, and projects. And so we're able to, we learned in the application development space in being effective by developing, usable software every couple of weeks and release to the business unit. We're able to apply those same methodologies to other business units that are non-IT and helping them achieve, their goals faster. And with, yeah.
Are you covering just Houston at the moment, or the other cities
Yeah. So,
outside it?
yeah, my responsibilities are for the Houston market. We've got branch offices around the rest of the U.S.
Yeah.
But we deliver not only staffing but solutions to just about every contiguous state. We haven't delivered anything in Alaska or Hawaii, but we're everywhere.
Don't appreciate the full scale of Texas. How
it's
large
its own country.
Like it's like,
I can drive 750 miles and still be in Texas.
it's a country to itself. So I've done a bit of recruiting in Calgary, not very successfully, may I add. I went there whenever the recession hit, the oil and gas recession hit. I don't need to share with you that when that oil and gas price drops, no matter if you're doing tech recruitment or whatever, it's really tough. In the last dip, did you like when all those companies turned off the taps? Because what did you guys do? Where did you start finding a bit of business? Because that wasn't pretty.
Yeah. So what's great about the recruiting business is you're needed, whether it's good times or bad times. Yes, a lot of companies closed. There was a lot of mergers and acquisitions. A lot of jobs were slashed. But again, our business, and I don't care how much IT affects our business, positive or negative, it's still about relationships. And in the recruiting world, I consider our candidates as our asset. And if you can corner the market and you've got a good recruiting team that stays in good contact and pipeline recruits for the hot skills that the market is buying, you're always going to have a job. You're always going to be able to help customers, because when clients downsize, that leaves a lot of holes. That means they're in a very lean staff environment, and that's going to create its own problems. There's going to be burnout. Yes, they have a job, but if they can find something else where there's a little better work-life balance, they're going to jump, which leaves another hole. So on the sales side, you've really got to pay attention to what's going on with your customers, even in a very bad economic situation. And on the recruiting side, you've got to have your finger on the pulse of the candidates and corner the market on the hot skills. What is my market buying today, and making sure that I'm recruiting to to my pipeline of those skill sets, because they're in high demand. You got to skill market those folks and be ready to deliver them, whenever.
If you could set up your own recruitment firm, what would you do differently than your existing company does?
The company I work for now is fantastic. They've been around for 35 years. It's a privately held company. The same folks that started it are still involved on the board. We're ever changing. We're a very conservative company, but what we're trying to do is improve our processes. The last few years, we've really gotten into a data-driven model, invested a ton of money on data and analytics and technology to be able to pull real-time reports together so that we can identify areas that need work.
What type of stuff?
Yeah. So we've everybody's got their own reporting technology that they've deployed, but we've taken that to a different level and invested in third-party applications that can make that data do things for us more real time and with customized dashboards. So each producer, each leader have their own dashboards that they can see, and we've identified key, areas or key activities that we monitor. For example, client interview to placement ratios.
Sure. Yeah.
That's one thing. So any of the normal industry key indicators that we typically manage, now I've got a dashboard of what, from a leader's perspective, what the 13 or 14 key indicators are that I can manage those on a minute by minute basis, so that if I see a trend going the wrong way for a week or for a half a week, well, tie them up. No, I'm kidding. But more than it's a gotcha thing. It's more of a tool or tools that can help you as an individual producer manage yourself. I'm in the field. I'm the leader of the team here, but but I don't like to micromanage. I'm glad that this company gives our producers, our salespeople, and recruiters the tools to self-manage. And when I have one-on-ones with them, they've got the data, they can pull it, and it's their meeting to me. This is what I've noticed. This is, and those people then can become leaders if they want to, because of the tools and the things that they're looking at to manage themselves.
Well, Eric, thanks so much for coming on the podcast. It's been great having you.
Yeah.
I really
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time, and I will buy you a beer when I land in Houston at some stage next year.
Yeah, you're welcome to stay at my house. I got plenty of room.
Thanks very much. Good man. All right. Take care, pal.
All right. Thank you so much.
Massive thank you to Eric for coming on the podcast. I know we're actively recruiting for lots of UK recruiters to move to America, and there is a great opportunity out there for them. But I suppose one of the challenges that you'll face, either as a business owner looking to set up in America or as somebody going out to become a recruiter, is that you'll be up against people like Eric who have 20 years of relationships, who have a split desk model where they've teams of resourcers and they've people on the front end. Now that doesn't mean that that you won't make it or you won't make lots of money, but it does mean that you need to really be prepared to work hard and figure out what pockets of the market aren't completely dominated by the Americans over there, which there are plenty, because, having come back from New York, I can see that there's lots of companies that are making unbelievable revenue returns by attacking all of America as opposed to just a geographical split. Most of them will be going for a specialist niche discipline, but not worry too much about the location. Just some thoughts anyway. Again, big thanks to Eric for coming on, and we'll be back with a full calendar of guests very soon. Being sick kind of knocked me for 6. So tomorrow I'm heading down to Brighton. Got a live event that we're going to record with Roy Ripper, with Barry the Lawyer Cullen, and with Mark Zanowski. And the theme's going to be on how to scale a recruitment company. And, Mark's been there, he's done it. He sold a major recruitment firm, and by all rights could be retired if he wanted to. Barry has seen under the hood at more recruitment firms than he would care to describe. He's been doing this for years and years. So he's going to talk a little bit about the pitfalls and things that you need to kind of get done right from a legal standpoint. And then we got Roy Ripper, who has been an advisor to the industry for about 20 years as well, and is a non-executive director at multiple firms, advises lots of startups and all the rest. So between the three of them, I'm really interested in getting a great piece of content done that can be a standalone bit of advice for entrepreneurs out there. Well, that's it for today. Take care and happy hunting.
The podcast you just heard was made using Anchor. Ever thought about making your own podcast? Anchor makes it really easy for anyone to get started. It's a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing podcasts. Best of all, it's 100% free. Sign up now at anchor.fm/new. That's anchor.fm/new to get started.